EYNOLWADEN. Joy and Liberty. July 26, 2021. EYNOLWADEN is visiting with you. I note with joy that many eternal flames understand and live that they are freedom and joy. According to your language, I would say simply that it is enough to believe in it, in order not to believe in anything anymore. It only takes a breath to live it. You don't need anything. And especially not of you. So yes, I have seen and observed, from the space where I am, that many of you have put an end to your beliefs, to the illusion of the world, to the illusion of the future, to the illusion of the past. And I also saw that it was the end of the lie, of all that I had told you in my first interview with you. I saw that you recognized yourselves well beyond the worlds of dreams and illusion. I have seen that many of you live the autonomy of freedom, the autonomy of joy without object, that many of you have recognized yourselves, beyond all your stories, all your forms, and all your dreams. I am happy or pleased to see that many of you have found the white ether, and have a smile on your lips, and have joy in your heart. You have found the truth, and you're living the truth. So of course, around you, many flames are still dreaming. Dreaming of tomorrow, of being heavy with yesterday, or of being destabilized by what the dreamers who command the dream tell you, but you are no longer living the dream, even if somewhere you are inserted in the dream. And you live the great joy, by moments, by instants, or all the time. And you see that this is not true. You don't need to go through the lengths, because this body still keeps you with one foot in the dream, because some habits are still there. But this does not hinder you in any way to have a smile on your lips and joy in your heart. And you know that you're nothing of what you live. You have understood that you're freedom and joy. You have understood that you're outside of all these dreams, and the nightmare of this world makes you smile, even if I understand that it is apparently difficult for you that many dreamers still dream. But in the end, you will also laugh about it, because you remember that you too have dreamed. But once you have touched the truth with your heart, you can no longer turn back to the dream. Indeed, you are complete. Indeed, we're in each other in the dream. And you notice your likeness, even if sometimes you sigh at those dreamers who dream. But you know that you live the essence of the essential. Each day, each occasion strengthens you in your autonomy, in your freedom, and especially in the smile. Thus, the nightmare recedes, thus the dream is seen as something that is past, and is now frozen. Whatever the resistance in the dream you're going through, you see clearly. And you live clearly. And what a feeling of freedom, where there is no inside or outside and everything is embraced, and everything is embraced, and everything is true. And you see that every day there are more and more of you, no matter what the dreamers say, no matter what the nightmare says. You find the senses, you live the senses, beyond the chorus of angels perhaps in your ears, beyond what you have unjustly called your obligations. You have chosen the natural, which could not be chosen in the end, but which only asked to appear, consuming in the same joy desires and habits. So today you sing with me, in the silence of your heart, my name which, I remind you, is freedom. So today and every day that passes over the illusion of time brings you to the eternal moment of joy, to the eternal present, where you are present and at the same time you're absent. There's freedom, there's joy, and where I am, where you are. You are this silence, you are this unspeakable truth which ignores all appearances, all forms, all worlds. Because you live this sublime ignorance where there is no more need for knowledge, but simply for your own recognition. It is now and it has always been there. And you have access to that, and you're entirely that. It is life that shows you to see that you're all lives, and that all these lives have only passed, in the same instant of the present, in the same instant of truth, where time no longer has to be counted nor counted, where time and space merge, no longer being separated by plans, by projects, or by any becoming. I am happy, in your terms, to live this in you, to live this with you, and I have had the information. Those who control the dream have told me that the heresy of the dream ends in all of creation, which gives you to see that creation lasted only an instant. This instant, which has been called initial and final, has allowed you to solve the equation. Today you no longer need an equation, but simply to be true. No artifice can seduce you. No desire can keep you from it. And even if it seems to you to be still destabilized by what you live, you accept your own consumption by yourselves. Right here's joy and joyfulness, which does not depend on any world or any form. Here elsewhere, you are the real, both manifested and never manifested. You are thirsty for freedom, and your thirst is satisfied by the joy of the moment, by the joy of the present, where everything is defined and at the same time so infinite and so indefinite. You know that you have nothing to plan, that only your character sometimes seeks solutions, so that your own character is not affected in this dream body, in this body of flesh. But you are no longer fooled by those who control the dream, you are no longer fooled by your history, you are no longer fooled by your form, and you recognize yourselves in the space of joy, where there has never been any distance, where there has never been any suffering, and this puts an end to the suffering of this body and puts an end to the suffering of any history. And you're free. I think there's an expression among you that says free as the wind that fills the space, the first emanation of the real and the dream, but that you're neither of these dreams, and that the real is prior to space, as it is prior to time. And you discover this like a child who has just been reborn, not in the horror of creation, nor even in the horror of the creation. As I told you, all this has been a game where your identity has appeared, but where no identity is true. I come to invite you to celebrate even more the access to the truth, and this is translated by your smiles, by the brightness of your look on this world, where everything is crossed, sufferings as illusions of this character, because now you know it, because now and here you live it, and you know that you're EYNOLWADEN. EYNOLWADEN is free, EYNOLWADEN is without form, EYNOLWADEN is nature itself, and the essence of nature, the very principle of nature on which the dream is based, on which the nightmare is based. But you know and you live it, that the dream and the nightmare are nothing else than a precise instant of the infinite, that a particular instant, on the eternity of the peace. And if you accept it by living it, then you become the acceptance, you become the smile to the life in what dissolves in the consummation of the dream, where also dissolves any history, where no scenario is useful or necessary. And you will dive deeper and deeper into the real, where there is no lie, there is no movement, and which constantly includes all movements and all forms. You are neither this nor that, and you are equally this and that. And it is precisely because of this that you're nothing, that is the whole. You don't need anything, except to nourish what remains of the dream, in order to go to the end. This end which is only the departure of the appearance of movement, of the appearance of suffering. You are only freedom, this fire that consumes all that is not true. And you're prior to this fire. But this fire which is born in your heart and in your mind, which brings you into this supreme joy, frees you each day a little more from all resistance as well as from all suffering. You see that you don't have to do anything, because doing is also suffering, because doing takes you away. There remains only what is necessary to complete this dream, which in truth never existed. This dream which never existed, these sufferings which were only the means to return you to yourselves, to return you in yourselves. Where you have never moved, where you filled the space, where you filled all the times, those of the wandering as those of the truth. And what a joy to live, what a joy to feel it, while knowing that you're not this sensation itself. You see more and more clearly, because you see that there is nothing to see, that there is nobody to believe, neither inside nor outside. Because inside and outside are ultimately only two phases of the same dream. Here you are in time, here you are in the place, this place that has no time, and this time that has no place. So my words take you to where you have never moved, where you have never been born, and where death is simply the game of illusion. It is only a fantasy, it is only the last dream that is nothing more than the first, and I rejoice to see your flames burning themselves, here's everywhere, in all the spheres of dream life, in all the suns of illusion. You are that for sure, and you're not even that for sure either. where words have only one meaning, that of revealing the silence and ignorance of the unborn. Every birth belongs to the dream, and your birth today puts an end to the dream, which never existed, and which does not need to be destroyed. It is only appearances that bring you back to the real, that bring you back to the source of yourselves. You who are freedom EYNOLWADEN, you who are space EYNOLWADEN, we can laugh together at ourselves, and this laughter will consume those who still persist in dreaming. You know that you no longer have words that can change them, but your silence becomes eloquence. The eloquence of truth, the eloquence of all the movements that are not one, the eloquence of joy, which is great silence at the same time as consummation. We're together, where there is no one, where there has never been anyone, where the light does not need to be manifested, but simply to know where it comes from. The great all and the great nothing are but the same two sides of the dream of creation, where the flame has become the many, where the flame has forgotten itself so that never again will oblivion take you, so that all desires are fulfilled. And finally, to verify that there was never any desire, that all that came and all that disappeared in the first breath is in the last breath. Then your heart is light, where the heart of that heart takes up all space, and all time. Surely you're there, after having traveled the paths of dream eternity, after having traveled all forms, the formlessness fills you, the formlessness is true. You have nothing to dream, you have nothing to omit, and so you know that everything is crossed and led to the joy, where you are simple, where you are the essence, where you are natural. We're that together. We're in this the one, who has played at multiples, who has played at creating oneself, who has played at decreating oneself. You are no longer affected by anything, as soon as the joy without object and without you grows. And freedom is there. You have nothing to choose, because in truth everything is perfect, even in the greatest of imperfections. You are putting in place, if I may say so, by your character playing on the stage, the last elements of the puzzle, a puzzle that has never been real, and yet where everything fits together and everything is justified. You are the spontaneous ignorance where all knowledge is burned by this joy itself. Freedom EYNOLWADEN is today what I see. And since I am not in time, and since I am in space as well as in non-space, I see all this clearly, that you will all discover that everything is clear, that there is nothing, and that the whole is also there. And there, the consciousness has no more argument, your life has no more argument to pursue the dream, nor to hope, nor even to despair, but simply to be there, because it is what you have decided, because you have nothing more to decide. Because you no longer need to make an effort, because in truth you are very strong. You are strong beyond all strength, you are strong in silence, you are strong in your presence, you are strong in absence itself, where absence is presence, where presence is absence, all that has been but the game of doing, the game of action, but what action? Simply to play, to believe yourself lost, to believe yourself at form. Nothing resists the truth, neither habits nor beliefs, nor injunctions of any world or society. Accept it and you live it. Accept it and you will cross, and you will realize that you have crossed nothing, that nothing weighs, that everything is light. Whether it is a feather, whether it is the universes, in truth they have no weight. In truth, they have no density, they're only a story that has passed, and at the same time will never pass, because you see that even the fact of passing, that even the fact of crossing, is only the story that ends, this story that was never born. You have played, we have all played. And enjoy, there's no need to play anything anymore. Because this joy is what we are, and the being is in the non-being, in the absolute as in the relative, in the true as in the false, in the good as in the evil, which in the end are only appearances, appearances of suffering, appearances of distance. All this is not true. All this has no substance. All of this is nothing, because you don't need representation. You don't need to be represented. You just need to present yourselves. Where there is nothing to ask. Where you expect nothing. Where you are fulfilled. We fill each other with the same silence and the same smile. Smile of space and time and their vanity of believing themselves present. This is not true. And yet it is true. And only the real shows you that. The certainty of the reality of the lie, hears everywhere, shows you and demonstrates it to you without ambiguity and without questioning, putting an end to questions. Because all is answer, because all is evidence, because all is real, and has only the weight of the dream, has only the weight of the illusion, because time and space cannot be dissociated anymore and are joined together in the joy, putting an end to themselves to all consciousness, where you cannot see any more nor appear, consciousness or unconsciousness, superconsciousness or consciousness. Consciousness too is the dream, which gave to leave the dream, but which had to see itself ultimately as the illusion of doing, and the illusion of evolution and involution. All this for that, you will say to me. And I will answer you, all for nothing. Discover that nothing is all, that there was never anyone, neither EYNOLWADEN of the ether, nor here, you, in your identity of this form. And this is the great joy. And this is the great silence. And this is the one truth, where nothing relative can appear, ending the morbid game of good and evil. This is oneness. But it is also far beyond oneness. It is simply that which is, which finds its source in that which is not. What is and what is not, is ultimately only the expression of joy, which themselves no longer need to appear, which themselves no longer need to exist, which themselves have no justification. So, yes, you are light in the very heart of density, even here in this body of appearance, you celebrate what you are. Even here in this body of suffering, you celebrate freedom and you celebrate joy. What you call love, agape, is ultimately what I came to say before it even happens, because agape does not have to happen. It emerges from the dream. It emerges from your consciousness, present in the here and now, and this is that end that never began and will never end. It shows you the unreal. This is the moment when everyone recognizes themselves in each other. This is the moment when there is neither. It is the moment of joy. The moment of space, and it is time without time. And this is immediately, if you accept it immediately. To accept that there is no continuation and that you do not come from any past and that you do not go towards any future, because all is already past and all has already come, even before being created. Being prior to the dream, prior to time and space, prior to love, you are the only one who is true, who hears within this body, and who is not stopped by any history, and by any consciousness. I address myself to freedom. I address myself to what is true. I address myself to what is. I address what is not. You are that. And you're also, all of it. There's nothing to throw away, because everything has already been thrown overboard from the ship of eternity, which you may call, I have been told, the body of light, because you're what created this body of light. Not dependent on any authority or constraint, you are free. And you're that. This freedom which has no concept, which can have no reference, neither here nor elsewhere, as well as in any consciousness, as in any world. Here's the time of the instant, this instant without time where all spaces are inscribed in the firmament of the lies and the firmament of the real. Be light, for you have always been light. Be joy, for you have always been. You are the silence from which the word has manifested itself. And you're the word that brings back to silence, in this form as in this heart, as much as in this flame, as much as the instant that is. We're that. We're infinitely that. We're indefinitely that. Here and now, in all dream time, and in all dream space, EYNOLWADEN sings in you. There's no need for rhythm. There's no need for note, no need for music, no need for form. There's no need for a story. There's no need for yesterday or tomorrow, where you cannot count anything, where you cannot discern anything, except the beatitude of the first and last breath. The pure beatitude of freedom. The pure beatitude of joy. That is now. And this now is at each breath of this body, at each stage of this world on the earth as in the heavens, as you name them, as you apprehend them. You have nothing more to hold, you have nothing more to suffer, you have nothing more to fear. Fear and suffering are only the antechamber of love, no matter what this body becomes, no matter what the consciousness thinks it will become. One day you have already come. You have always been born in the beauty of truth, in the beauty of essence, in the beauty of what is natural, in the beauty where there is nothing to see. It is the beauty of the great silence, the beauty of now for all creation in the dream of this world, where everything is listed, where everything has been recorded in the book of life. This book that was closed by Abba, in truth never existed. In truth, there's neither book nor Abba. In truth, there's only you without any possible identification. You have nothing to weigh, you have nothing to measure, but simply to accept that, and that is instantly, without delay and without time. Everything else doesn't need you because everything else is you, but you don't have to deal with it. Tranquility is the end of the effort. Tranquility is the end of hope and, at the same time, the end of despair. All this was just a game related to your game, and the last game is the eternal and absolute game. You are done playing. You find the joy that played all the games in order to see that there is no game, in order to see that there is only joy. You are only EYNOLWADEN. You are what you are, but you are not what you are not. Even if you have been, it is not and it never was. It was only what was passing. It was only what weighed. It was not you. You in truth are freedom. You in truth are EYNOLWADEN, where there is no need for the choir of angels, where you do not need company, or even the slightest landmark, because you're peace. You have always been there, and yet you have never been there. There's no paradox, there's no opposition, but it is simply the beauty of what is true. That is where your freedom. It is where there is nothing. It is where there is everything. And yet you can't make any difference, because difference is only an appearance or a resistance to what is in the moment, to what is in space. But space is no longer a distance. But space is no longer a delay. It is simply the support of the dream. It is the support of the form, and you discover and live that you have always been the unformed, that no formalism and no constraint can oppose what has always been, well before the being, well before the light, well before the consciousness. The before which is only an after, which realizes that there has never been a before or an after, and that it cannot be named. EYNOLWADEN is the last and first name that accompanied Abba in the myth of creation, consciousness, forming worlds. So, reveal yourself and reveal yourself. How can you fear what you are? How can you fear that which is still unknown to you? And yet is that which has always been known. Ask for nothing. Expect nothing and you will see what you are, beyond seeing, beyond feeling. You are at the origin of all this, of what has never begun and what has never ended. All this is only words, but they are here essence and vibration, and they are also beyond everything and beyond nothing. Such is freedom. Such is joy. And such is the integrity which is also humility, and which is also simplicity. And you're there, in the moment of this instant, at the doors of the grace, where there is no more door, and all is revealed. You do not need anything else because you're fulfilled, beyond all desire as well as all experience. You are that. You are unspeakably that. Accept it and it will be revealed in totality of the instant. You cannot lie to yourselves indefinitely. You cannot deceive yourselves. You cannot doubt yourselves. You cannot deny anything, especially in what is still apparently unknown to you. You are freedom. You are the truth. You are the way that sees that there is no way. You are the love that does not need to be carried because it carries itself. You do not need circumstances because the circumstance of the instant is real. There's nothing else. There has never been anything other than what has always been, and which does not need to be anything other than the instant of the great silence, the instant of the ultimate, what you have named, I believe, absolute. You no longer need to put words. You are beyond manifestation. Simply accept it. Then you'll be simplicity. Then your beauty. Then your freedom. This is what EYNOLWADEN wanted to tell you today. No longer from this body that expresses itself, but in the silence of your heart. Do not seek meaning in my words, because they are much more than words. They are simply the great silence meeting the dream and meeting yourselves. You have always met each other. You have always recognized each other. But you have played at forgetting it. Today, you can no longer deny it because you're confused by the evidence of simplicity, by the evidence of love. And this you are. EYNOLWADEN tells you this. And because it is said, it is lived. I do not ask you to believe me. But here again, simply accept it. Open your arms to the unknown, you will see that it is very well known. And it is even the only thing that you fundamentally know, recognize. And that is what ends what has no beginning and no end. That is the solution to what has never been a riddle. You are what is true, here is everywhere, now is everywhere. Listen and hear what is beyond listening and understanding. What is there, right there, without effort, without waiting for anything, simply there, simply the present of freedom, the present of grace. EYNOLWADEN, EYNOLWADEN, EYNOLWADEN. Listen to what the great silence tells you, there's the great joy. Silence. I am consumed in you. You are consumed in me. This is the joy. Only that is true. EYNOLWADEN will never leave you again. It was only an appearance that could be expressed from time to time. But it was already there, even before I spoke, and will persist after my silence. Accept it. This is your ultimate strength. There's your only effort. It is now. It is everywhere, because everything is a call to live it. So, I could tell you that I love you. I could tell you that I bless you, but your love and blessing. I thank you for listening to yourself. I thank you for being heard, in the time of this instant, in the space of all spaces. Joy and joyfulness, you, pilgrim of the dream. You, creator of yourself, do not make any more effort. Just be there and you'll be everywhere. And you will see that you're nowhere, and that it makes no difference. You are the unspeakable. We're that. EYNOLWADEN is silent. Through Jean-Luc Ayon. With Elisa Bernal. July 26, 2021. English translation, LMF.